former NFLer Merrill Hoge and Peter Cummings, MD, are co-authors of the new book, Brainwashed, the bad science behind CTE and the plot to destroy football. Merrill is kind enough to join me on a Tuesday on the Boardwalk Hunt Hotline. Merrill, I appreciate a couple moments. How are you?
I'm good, Rich.
It's good to touch base again. And take us behind the thought process coming out with the book.
Well, I don't think I'm any different than by every listener you have out there. You've seen the headlines. You're confused about it. You want to know, well, what's the real truth? But I'm coming from really a parent perspective. Even though I coached youth football for a long time. My son started at age 7. He's still playing at BYU. And I want to know the truth. So I just really went on a quest to have a life philosophy to find a way. And that's always inspired action. So I went across this country up into Canada, started asking all the trained neuropathologists in the world that have studied brains, knew about CTE, been studying it. And I just asked them exactly what you said. I was like, what is it? And this is the consensus that I would get. Merrill, it is a pattern. We don't know what causes it, and we don't know what causes are from it. There are cases that we have in football, in sports, and out of sports. We got cases where nobody's ever had a concussion. Nobody's ever had head trauma. No history of it. And I'm like, well, how can we only hear about the football cases then?
Right.
And then I realized that just a massive disconnect. And then if you read the science papers, listen, I had not read them till this point, had them explained to you from not one great mind, but dozens of great minds. And they keep coming back to the same thing. And the science papers that are written on this subject say the same thing. But then when you see the media, and that is not what you see a headline that's contradicting the science paper it's referring to, you're like, wow. I was like, I cannot believe what science really says about it, what the facts are, but what we've been seeing and reading. So I got Dr. Cummings, who's a 3-board certified forensic professor out of Boston University. He was really the main contributor to help me, but I used great minds from across the country up to Canada to help people understand the science, what the science really says, and how it's contradictory to what you see in the media, and also all the great things that are going on. It really infused sports that parents need to know about, should know about, should be encouraged to know about if their kids want to play. So hopefully they'll get the book, read it, and it'll help them, empower them with the choices they're trying to make with their family and playing sports.
Two things that just popped up while you were speaking. So obviously, at the end of the day, the book is just challenging the link between football and CTE. And
you said something. You said link there. I'm not going to go beyond what the experts tell me, and they're like, hey, I tried to do those same things. Don't get me wrong, Rich. I'm saying I'm no different than you. Okay, I'm not a scientist. I haven't been studying brains. Although at this point, I've talked to more neuropathologists. I've cut brains. I've been into a brain bank. So I've done things I never dreamt I would do just to try to find out what the real truth is. And every time I do something like that, neuropathologists say, whoa. Don't ever use that word.
Okay.
There's no science about that. So I was like, okay, excuse me.
So you were really in the trenches with this. That's really doing your due diligence. I mean, you're up front on the lines.
On the line, I'll tell you this, I have never cut a brain, and to cut a brain was, I'll have to tell you, there's a lot of I don't have many moments in my life where I'm just like, it was very uneasy and surreal. When you start bringing a brain out of a bucket and you start to cut it and listen to a neuropathologist explain what you're doing and what you're seeing, as it's like, wow. It was a wow.
I'm curious, how much backlash have you gotten? Or pushback, if you will.
Well, Rich,
look, you were in the media, you played in the NFL. I mean, come on, you know how it works.
Well, sure. I know. Listen, you think for 1 second, I've been dodging bullets my whole life. I mean, it's like you say something like, listen, when there's a game, if you're just pro or con on one team, you're going to get attacked. So, I've been doing, there's by no question did I not expect to get attacked. But here's where it's disturbing, actually, from a media perspective, what I've really been bothered by, which I think leads to a lot of our issues. Media people actually call me up, start telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, tell me that they're going to show me science papers, and this has happened actually, show me the science papers that prove concussions cause CTE, and go off on me. And I asked them, I go, have you read the book? No. How can you do anything on this book without reading it? Just in fairness. And then that guy, the person I'm telling you about, I said, listen, just so you know, you're the first person in the world to have science papers that prove concussions cause CTE. Please send them. He goes, I will. And I had some stuff I had to send him that he didn't believe, science papers and stuff. That's why I wrote the book. I mean, that's why I got the website for people to read it. It isn't, I'm trying to make up stuff. It's right there for you to read. I sent them to him. 2 days later, he emailed me. Sorry, I'm wrong. And I'm just like, but here's somebody in the media writing articles on it, has been writing articles, and he is convinced there's science evidence of that. And I'm going to tell you this. I went and dug out every science paper, every neuropathologist I could find that was willing to listen to me, talk to me, answer questions. You even say that word to them, they'll be like, don't you ever do that.
And it's, you know, what's it's not even ironic, but what's interesting is over the past several years with a lot of the former players, where we've just seen whether they passed or they've committed suicide, whatever the situations is, or has been. And then we talk about the league itself, always wanted to protect the player. They're redefining some of the rules for the defensive players and how they can't hit the quarter. It just seems like all of a sudden the last several years, it's so prevalent. Like everyone right away, someone says CTE. Oh, NFL, boom. The NFL is bad. I mean, we know it's a violent sport. And the one thing I will agree with you, you brought up the point where right away, you know, us in the media, we see the headline, we want to gravitate towards the headline, and maybe we don't do, some are guilty of not doing their due diligence, really not just clicking, but taking a couple further steps and reading and researching. I do think it is a hot topic and it's a controversial topic, and I think right away it's easy for someone on TV or on the radio to say, NFL is bad, too much violence, CTE, boom, without really understanding what's going on. And that's why, have you heard from a lot of current or former players?
No, I haven't heard much. You know, actually from current and former players, the people that I do have, I am telling you this, Rich, to your point, I'm going to back up a little bit. You know, you are right. A lot of people have not done their due diligence, and they start talking in terms where if you ask them where they got that scientific evidence, they'd be like, what do you mean? You know, so we start using those terms. And that's actually why I wrote the book, because all of the questions that you have, the uncertainties that we've been reading and seeing, we clarify it. We clarify what you see in the media, but what the science papers say and how they actually draw the headline. You would just shake your head like, how could that possibly be? There's oftentimes in science papers, Rich, that actually says this. Right. The word caution is used. And then it says you cannot use this, for example, on age of exposure to drive any policy change. And it's the paper that prayed to try to stop tackle football. Mm-hmm. And it's in the science paper. And the paper, and here's what probably was the most disturbing. The people who wrote the science papers are the people quoted in the media, and they contradict what they wrote in the science. And I was just like, wow. And then there's so much of it. It's so misunderstood. That's why the book, I thought I had to write it just from a parent's perspective. I'm like, listen, I'm pretending like I didn't live what I've lived, know the people I know, done the research. Man, if I'm somebody's not in sports, like my daughter wanted to go to the theater. I don't know much about theater. I remember walking into theater places in New York just going, I am in a foreign area. I know nothing what's going on. Well, there's a lot of people in the sport, you know, in that world. They're not in the sporting world, but their kids want to play. Well, they've taken a headline. I'm like, no way. I don't blame that parent. That's why I thought it was important to give them the real facts and all the information to empower them, give them the truth of what's really going on, and then hopefully they don't rob their child of a passion they might have, because there's so many kids are passionate about playing contact sports. To not rob them of that.
Yeah, it's a fair point, because right away they read the headlines and the parents quickly, there's no way my kid's playing Pop Warner. It's just not happening. Or they're going to wait to high school. You know, and now you see across the country that, you know, they're showing the videos and people are certified, you know, proper technique, proper tackling, which, you know, let's be honest, even in today's standard in the NFL, it's a lost art.
Right, Rich, I'm telling you, that's part of what we did in the book, too. We really shed light on all of the awesome things going on in football. Rich, I don't know if you played youth football. Did you play youth football?
I did not. I played other sports, but I never played. But okay. Listen, I'm the biggest football fan in the world.
Okay, but here, listen to this. Okay, we have lost. We've missed the message of where we are in youth sports. In 2003, I started I coached my son to start playing youth football. I established a head trauma protocol that I established through a youth program. Eventually, I helped USA Football launch Heads Up Football.
Yep.
I go to Congress in 2009 to testify at the front and for them to get a protocol really for all activities in sports to protect our youth 8 to 18. And the reason I was doing that, we were doing nothing for them. Okay, since that day, the protocols, the equipment, the instruction, the therapies and treatments that are available, if your son or daughter would have a concussion, keep in mind, it's not an athletic event. My son's been playing football for 15 years, and he got his first concussion where? The shower. He's in the dorm room. He slips in the shower 4 days before his first bowl game. I go, boy, you know you can't play now. And he's like, well, he goes, I said, well, it's 4 days before your bowl game. He was the backup anyway. He wasn't going to matter the team unless the starter went down, but, he couldn't play. But it happened in a shower, So wouldn't it be nice to know of the treatments and therapies and how do you handle concussions and the great things that are going on, repairing kids? My son did eventually have a concussion in football, and it drove me to UPMC in Pittsburgh where we got it treated. And the person that actually had the most confidence about his return was Bo, my son, after he had done the cognitive and the physical treatment to repair the vestibular area, which they identified was the problem, which now they're identifying the areas of the brain. I'm looking up at a book right now, John Saunders. I know you remember him.
Yep.
John Saunders had all kinds of head issues from slipping in the studio, okay, not even in an athletic event, okay, and for years he struggled with it. I sent him to UPMC. They identified a very similar thing where he was vulnerable. They gave him a cognitive plan, physical plan. Within a few months, I remember John, he put in his book actually when he called me up and he said, I cleared up today. There's exciting things for if you do have one, and it could be in any environment. Parents need to know about that, know how to take care of it, and it can be taken care of. These are exciting times. They're not, but they've been turned into scary times. I went back to why you and I played. I wear a helmet with some straps in it, and you know who we used to tackle at scrimmage, and we scrimmaged once a week? Our coaches. I tackled our coaches, and we couldn't wait. We loved to tackle on our coaches.
Yeah, it's
but
free
now,
hits.
If you brought that, okay, yeah, it's like all those things you've been yelling at me, now I can hit you.
Right.
Okay, think about that. Yeah, or tackling grown men. If you saw that on a practice field, and that went up somewhere socially, people would be going crazy. And that's what we used to do.
I remember, too, and again, a couple minutes, Merrill Hoge and, of course, Peter Cummings, MD, co-authors of the new book, Brainwashed, The Bad Science Behind CTE and the Plot to Destroy Football. Merrill, kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline. I remember years ago working over at NFL Films and having this conversation with Ron Jaworski a couple times, and I said to him, Jaws, it's funny because when you played and other quarterbacks played and you would watch the game growing up on TV and then covering the league like I did and going to the games, it's a different mindset where you watch a guy get drilled. And during the broadcast, what would we say, right? What would they say? He got his bell rung. Right, that was years ago.
Yeah.
Now, all of a
You're
sudden, what happens is everything, you've got to have the protocol. And I know the last couple of years, the NFL has been under fire at times, or at least the officials and how they've acted when a player has gotten hit, and you have to get them right away in there to test them for a concussion. Is there a fine line with that, or is that an overreaction, or is the league doing? Are they doing enough? Because everyone always turns. What do you think?
I think they're the front runners of it now. I think they lead the charge. Were they in a reactive position? Were they late in reacting? Absolutely. That's what's been well documented. They're now they lead the charge. They're very proactive, not just in that, and we're doing that in youth football. That's what this book was really for. It's not for the NFL. It is for youth sports and maybe the resources parents may not have. The NFL has every resource known to mankind. That's why this book is important from a youth perspective. It's not just about the protocols. We can never overreact on a concussion. I used to tell my kids, I start out every year, football's a tough game for tough people, but it's also an intelligent game for smart people. If you have a concussion, we're removing you. You're not going to play the next week. That's going to be our rule. 2-week window, and that was at that time, neuropathologists saying that was the best to protect your kids if they had any type of concussion. So any type of sign that I would see, that kid got removed. Now, listen, in almost a decade, that only happened twice, which is another thing that you have to put in perspective. As far as all injuries go, it's at the very bottom as far as when it occurs. But I move it to the top in how we care for it. We're going to handle it right. I don't think you can ever overreact by pulling some child out when you think they got hit too hard. That will never be a mistake. You'd much rather do that be cautious before you return to play, because we know this. If they have the time, they're repaired, they have the treatments, therapies, you can return without any danger for your child.
Two more before I let you get out of here, and I appreciate the extended time. I understand that, you can, there are those that want to be the crusader and they want to win every battle, and there's just going to be parents that say, hey, you know what? I'm just not letting my kid play. Period. You can show me all the data. You can show me all the scientific evidence, the research. It's just not happening. Listen, you know that's going to be the case, but you're basically, I just want you to be a little more educated before you come down with that decision or make that decision.
Yeah, Rich, this is not about you changing your mind or making your kids play football. It is hopefully you open up your mind. You do with what you think's best. If you read it all, I understand, I agree. I'm not going to let them play football. That is absolutely, you're fine. That is your choice. That is not my choice. It is really listen, and the more you can empower yourself about this injury and about the truth of it, the treatments and therapies, you're just a better parent, because, like I said, rollerblading, skateboarding, recess, backyard, trampolines, slipping in the shower, it could happen in any environment. Wouldn't it be nice to know there's treatments, therapies, and how you handle it?
And lastly, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. People are going to be tuning in, they're listening to this interview, and they're going to say, you know what, here's a guy that played in the NFL for a long time. He suffered some concussions. He's coming out with a book. We know all the issues. Man, it might sound like he's being dismissive towards this. Now, I don't believe that, but I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well, that's fine. I don't know that in the book I clarify how many trips across this country and up into Canada and the months and years it has taken me.
How long has it taken you to put everything together?
I will bet you this probably started within months after my career ended.
Really?
Just the questions. Here, I'll give you an example.
Wow.
And maybe we can leave on this, which probably helps. This is a proactive thing to where we are versus where we were. 1994, I'm coming out of intensive care, and I'm blown away that this happened. I'm like, I have a helmet, okay? That's my rationale. I wear a helmet. How could this happen?
Right.
And I was told, I go, oh, gosh, a NASCAR helmet's so much better than a football helmet. And I was like, well, why? And they're like, well, NASCAR helmets are meant to absorb impact. NFL helmets are meant to withstand impact. He goes, if car accident, all you hope is that helmet works one time.
Yep.
In the NFL, it's got to work over and over, so you give up some of the protection. So I was like, how can we not get helmets like a NASCAR helmet where it absorbs? We are not only there, it now absorbs. A lot of these helmets absorb and distribute impact. The protection that you get in a helmet, and by no stretch is that helmet ever going to stop concussion. Please do not. I'm saying that I am not. But the helmet that exists today is something I never thought we'd see. It's the equivalent of absorbing and deflecting impact. We didn't have that before. That is now the helmets that we put on kids and play in the National Football League, and that's helping how we go about practicing. I've coached youth football. We had practice 2 times a week, and I only had one 15-minute contact period once every 2 weeks. And I'm going to tell you this, every day we went to practice, every game, I'm on tackle. Right.
Like,
all right. I know you do that. We're going to do that on Saturday. But there's all these ways to teach the game, practice the game, and it's not just about tackling, Rich. It's about how to take on a tackle. It's how to block. It's how to get off a block. There's so many components to go to playing football. And all the options that are available shouldn't be a debate. It's just, it shouldn't be tackle over flag. We have tackle, flex, flag, 7-on-7. These are great options. And you know what it does? It gives family a better option for their kid, and it's gotten girls involved in it, which those numbers are growing, and that's exciting. It's not about one over the other. It's the options that parents need to know about, too, which we talk about in the book.
The book is called Brainwashed, the Bad Science Behind CTE and the Plot to Destroy Football. Merrill Hoge and Peter Cummings, MD, are the co-authors of the new book. Listen, I'm going to get my hands on it because it sounds like a fascinating read. That's why, I was telling my producer, and I said, listen, I was like, I got to go by. I got to get a feel from Merrill during this interview, and because I want to get my hands in a book. The last thing you want to do is have an interview like this and just start throwing darts out there and seeing what sticks, and then you turn around and say, "Wait a second, did you read the book?"
Rich, I did. Listen, I credit you for doing that and actually talking about it, and so we can have a good conversation.
No doubt.
And hear the real truth. But I really encourage you to do it. I'll come back, and I'd like to
absolutely
do an interview once you do read the book.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of things will pop up, and you'll have questions, and love to circle back with you, bud.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Listen, the best of luck with the book, and appreciate you making a couple moments. Next time when we have a couple more moments, we'll talk about today's NFL for a little bit. But I wanted to get you on and really focus on the book. I appreciate it.
You got it, buddy. Take care, Rich.
You got it. Merrill Hoge, appreciate a couple moments with him.